Hey guys, welcome back to Suavecito Vintage Drums. Thank you for joining me. I have this new acquisition here that I wanted to share with you guys. This is the modern take, the 110th anniversary Ludwig Black Beauty on the original vintage. And if you were to go all the way back to when they first started making these would be closest to the original black nickel drums, which were known as the Inspiration. And those were available in the Ludwig catalogs from 1919 to 1926. If you guys are familiar with my YouTube channel, you guys know that I do like to cover vintage drums. So whenever I get a chance to buy a modern drum with a little bit of a vintage flair, I pick up on it because it gives me the best of both worlds. Obviously, this is a modern shell. It's not a vintage shell. It's spun, not welded, like the original Black Beauties were. So the sound characteristics are going to be different. I know that. And obviously these are plastic heads. They're not cav heads like the original one would have had. But then again, I just want to get close. I don't want to spend the money on an original one. And two, this is good enough for me. So let's go through some of the Black Beauty history, and then we'll talk about the appointments on this modern one, okay? So like I said, the original ones came out in 1919. They were known as the Inspirations. They were a 6-lug drum, 2 lugs with the clips and the stick chopper hoop. These were made this way until 1926. In 1923, the Deluxe came out, which is what came to be known as the Black Beauty. Once again, these were nickel over brass, and in 1923, you would get the engravings on them known as scroll work by the collectors, or by today's collectors. So that was a big difference that started in 1923. Like I said, these were available till 26 in the catalog as the Inspiration. And then from 26 through 28, they were available in the catalog, but with no, not by that name. I don't even think they had a title. It was just the snare drum that was available. From 23 till Kahn bought it in the 30s, they were a welded shell. These were a little bit different, okay, guys? So, as you guys know, Ludwig is super famous for their spun shell. Okay, that was brought in by Kahn. Prior to that, they were welded. And these were welded very differently. So, at first, it was a straight piece of steel, or I'm sorry, brass, that was rolled through a roller, and that would curve it, and then it would have to be welded into what we know as like what would have been the top half of the shell. Okay, so it was welded, let's say from here to here, right? And then they would take the other half of the shell, they would roll it, and then they would weld it once again from here to here. And then when they would put them together to build the shell, they'd offset the welds to add strength, and then they would weld them horizontally, okay? This allowed for strength, because if you put the two welds together, you're going to get a weaker joint. So if you offset them, it gives you a stronger joint, and then it was welded all the way across. So a lot more labor intensive than when Kahn took it over. Obviously, that's going to be the big difference, and that's what people, you know, who are like true Black Beauty collectors see as a Black Beauty sound, is the fact that those are welded, not spun. My ear is not developed enough to like hear the difference. I don't really, I'd have a real hard time believing that people can hear the difference. Kind of like the Pepsi Coke challenge, right? Everyone thinks they know until it's a blind taste test, and then a lot of mistakes are made. I truly believe it's the same way with these. But you know what? You know, if you have any comments, put some down and let me know. So those in the 1930s, when Kahn came out, like I said, they're the ones that started spinning the shell and made it into what we know today as like the spun Ludwig shell, American-made Ludwig shell. Obviously, if you get the student or lower end drums by Ludwig, those are welded north to south, not spun. These were made up until 1940. We all know what happened. The war kicks off during that time frame. So obviously after that, the government tells everyone they can't use more than 10% metal on anything that they're making, which obviously makes this not, you know, you can't produce it because obviously it's all metal. They started making them again in 1976, and they've made them since 76 to the present. And obviously if you look online, you can see Ludwig has like a grip of variations. Now you can get them hand hammered. You can get all the way up to like an 8-inch depth. You can get them with like the original tube lugs. You can get them with the Imperial lugs. You can get like what's known as a brass on brass on brass, which is like everything on there is brass other than the tension rods. Okay, so you know there's a bunch of different variations. all marketing ploys, all designed to like meet the drummer's need, all the way from 5 inches. And actually I've seen some that are 4 inches deep, all the way up to 8. That brings us to this one. This right here is the 110th anniversary version. This version, here, let me bring it closer so you guys can see the badge better. Okay. This one I got used through Guitar Center. I feel like I got an amazing deal. It was listed for $630. Much like any Guitar Center picture, especially when it comes to drums, they're very poorly taken. The pictures are super wonky. The drum was out of Illinois, so I called them on my way home, and I said, hey man, you guys got this drum that I'm interested in. Pictures are really wonky. I can't really tell if the drum itself is all misshapen or if it's just very poorly taken pictures. So whoever answered the phone brought up the pictures. He agreed with me, and it was for sale. I think it was like $630 or $639, something like that. I said, hey dude, this thing's been up there for a minute. You know, can you take some money off? He said, yeah, dude, I'll take some, I'll knock it down to $5.99, and I won't charge you shipping. All you got to just pay the tax and we'll get it to you. Super cool, man. I said, perfect. So I busted out the debit card while I was on the road and paid for it on a Monday afternoon, and it was here Friday. So they shipped it super quick, man. So I was very, very happy with the shipping, very happy with the drum. In fact, I had just bought a different one, this really nice one that was the brass on brass on brass, that had the die-cast hoops. It had the P80, I think it's called the P86 strainer. This is known as a P88. The P86 is like a throwback to like the vintage style. And the guy I bought it through Reverb, didn't disclose that he had dropped it. And being that it's brass, it was bent. Luckily, I took video. Side note here, guys, if you order anything from Reverb, when you're opening the box, take a video of it, okay? That's a huge help. It'll make sure that, like, if anything's wrong with anything that you buy, that you can contest it. You can make sure that your argument can say, this is how it came. It wasn't me that dropped it. UPS didn't drop it, because the guy kept claiming that it was UPS, but the box is in perfect shape. Everything was in perfect shape except for the drum itself. So being that I did take the video, I was able to send pictures and video to both him and Reverb, and I very quickly got my money back from Reverb, so I was super happy. Anyhow, back to this drum. So I picked this up from Guitar Center. It was money very well spent. This has got, once again, the double flanged hoops, because it's got the 90-degree bend. So you got one bend here and one bend, smaller bend here, which is the double flange. You have the clips, you have the tension rods, and you have the brass tube lugs, along with the stick chop. The top is a stick chopper hoop style. Once again, the double flange hoop. You have a super cool looking badge, and then black nickel over brass. You have this P88 throw off, which is only the second drum I've ever had with this throw off, and I really dig it. It's really smooth. I like the way it locks. Much better than the, I forget, man. So many different ones. I think it's a P86, right? Or whatever the other one is. I can't remember off the top of my head, guys. Sorry about that. So this drum's great. I have a gig coming up next weekend. So I'm going to tune this up. In fact, I'm going to try playing this Focus X Aquarian head, which looks like it's still in great shape. I'm a big fan of Aquarian. And then the only thing is, this has got it came with a 42 strand snare wire. I don't know if I've never played a 42. I know they're really popular with Gretsch players, especially the vintage ones, because the bearing edges weren't cut very well. So they used to use 42 strands to get a better snare response from the snares themselves, or from the drum themselves, sorry. So this one right here, I'm gonna check it out. I think it might be a little too ringy, but we'll see. I'm gonna take it to one gig and see what it sounds like, because in the end, that's where we really find out what that drum's gonna sound like, right? When it's mic'd up, when it's gigged, rather than just at home. So anyhow, guys, once again, this is a Black Beauty 110th anniversary. Do me a favor, if you like our videos here at Suavecito Vintage Drums, click subscribe, like. It helps us out, man. You guys have a great night. Go Dodgers.